Hi, my name's Catherine Lefroy, and I am the author of a new middle grade novel called The Secret of the Stone. And I'm speaking to you actually from a small town in northern Italy where 7 years ago I actually wrote the very first draft of this book. So it feels amazing to be back here celebrating the release, I suppose, in the place where I first had the idea. So the book is about a group of friends in San Francisco, where I used to live, who find this stone that they realize grants them wishes. Now, they think this is the coolest thing in the world and they're going to have a lot of fun with it. But things start to get a little bit hairy when they realize that things can go seriously wrong when when you can have anything you want. So they're facing a lot of moral and ethical dilemmas. They are also facing a lot of danger from people who are also looking for the stone, because when you've got something that powerful, then there are always going to be other people on the hunt for it. I got the idea for this story, actually, it was just after I'd watched one of those big budget superhero movies. I can't even remember which one it was, but I watched that movie and I thought, wonder what would happen if like a group of just like regular kids somehow, got their wishes granted or got superpowers, and what would they do with it? And I thought, what if they got like the most useless wishes or useless superpowers known to humankind? And that's kind of where, the idea for the story sort of started germinating. And when I sat down and wrote the first chapter of the book, it hasn't actually changed much in the 7 years. The rest of the book has changed a lot, but that first chapter hasn't actually changed that much. And I'm not going to tell you exactly what it's about, but it is called Dead Frog. And our main character, Olive, gets a rather useless superpower or wish granted in this first chapter. This is my third novel, and a lot of people ask me, it must get so much easier now that you've done 3 novels. And it does and it doesn't. So I'm sure you've heard of this thing. It's like the more you know, the more you don't know. So when I sat down and wrote my first novel, Alex and the Alpacas Save the World, I had no idea how hard it would be to write a novel. I just thought, I'm going to sit down and write a novel. And I just kind of did it. And I think if someone had told me quite how hard it was going to be, I'm not sure I would have done it, because it's a lot of work. For people who've written novels, who are in the process of writing novels, it's a lot of work. So now, each novel I go into, I go in optimistically hoping that it'll be easier, and then realizing, partway through that no, it's just every time it's as hard as the last time. Which also takes me to another sort of segue, which is what's some advice that I have been given that I would also pass on to people who are trying to write novels. And the best piece of advice I've ever been given is that you have to enjoy the writing process. Because I'm really lucky in that, this is my third book that's been published, but there is a universe, there's a world where I've had no books published, and I'm just still writing and trying to get stories onto a page. And if you don't enjoy that process, I think it comes through in your writing. If you're not having fun, people can tell. And the other thing, if you're not having fun, you're not able to finish the project, I don't think. This current book went through, gosh, I don't even know how many drafts, but probably at least 7 major structural rewrites over the course of its life. I know other writers who are much faster than that, but this one took a bit of time. So you've got to enjoy the process. You've got to enjoy sitting down and being like, where am I going to take these characters today? And it should be fun. Like, it is fun. You get to just like make stuff up and, get fictional people and fictional animals to do whatever you want them to. So enjoy it. It doesn't get better than that. I don't write so much about people I know but I do name characters after people I know. So all of my main characters in my books are named after my nieces and nephews. And I would say like 90% of the other characters in the books are named after people I know. I think that's probably because like I'm really bad at remembering birthdays and remembering special occasions in people's lives. So I feel like, you know, the thing I can do is name a character after you. So do know that even if I've named the baddie after you, it comes from a place of love. People always say about, you know, write about what you know. And I think all of the characters that I write, they definitely have like essences of people I've met or other characters I've seen in films or read about in books. And there's also like some characters who have like a bit of an essence of me in them. So, you know, Olive, for example, the main character in The Secret of the Stone, she doesn't like change and she doesn't want her life to change from what it is. And I just remember when I was younger, feeling that so clearly and not wanting, like it was this almost crippling fear in a way, like I didn't want my life to change, until I realized that change is actually fun and exciting. And now, you know, as a grown-up, I'm just like, change all the time, live all over the world, you know, travel a lot. So I definitely draw on my own personal experiences, but I wouldn't say anything in my books is like a specific representation of like one person or like or me for that matter. With this creative process, because it's my third book, I'd say has it got easier or has it got harder? In some senses, it's easier because, you know, it's my third book. I feel like a bit more like I know what I'm doing. I have more self-confidence. I have more self-belief because I've done it before. So I've done this before. I can do this again. On the flip side of that, when I started writing Alex and the Alpacas Save the World, I went into writing that book not knowing what I didn't know. So I didn't know how hard it was going to be. I didn't know how long it was going to take. I didn't know how many rewrites and how many edits and how many rejections I was going to get before the book finally came out into the world. So in a sense, that first book was kind of easier in a way because I didn't have any of like the preconceived notions of how hard writing a book is. But I do now, like I'm more strategic now when I go into a writing project or a film project. I sort of say to myself, can I sit with this story for a number of years? Because you're going to have to. Like, is this story going to excite me for several years? And look, I've had projects that I've worked on for a year or two, and I've lost interest in them. And, you know, as I said earlier, if you can't get excited about something, I believe that comes through in the writing, and your audience isn't going to get excited about it either. So I think I've had projects that I've just sort of left, and I may come back to them one day, I may not, but I think having the courage and just knowing when to say goodbye to a project, whether it's goodbye or it's just see you later, I think that is a really important part of being a writer as well. But The Secret of the Stone is a book that did take a long time to write. It's been through many iterations. I think because of that, it's my strongest book, I think. I had so much fun writing it. It's set in my hometown of San Francisco, where I lived for nearly 10 years, and I wanted to set a project there. It's got these characters that I love, that I've absolutely fallen in love with, and you fall in love with these characters, and sometimes you think they're real, and I'll wake up some mornings and I'll be like, oh right, yeah, Olive and her friends, they're not actually real. They came out of my head. But it's a fun book. It's got some, pretty big questions that it deals with around the notions of power and who should have it and who shouldn't have it, and ultimately, should anyone have it. But more than anything, it's a really enjoyable read. And I hope you love reading it as much as I loved writing it. Thank you.